Good morning. I'm Nicole Obi, the President and CEO of the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Barry Rees, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Boston Planning and Development Agency.
Welcome to Unlocking Opportunities with the BPDA.
We hope this event gives you the keys to unlock the opportunities found within our organization. We look forward to working with you. And on behalf of our team, thank you so much for joining us today.
We are so happy to share this opportunity with you. BECMA's mission is to advance the economic well-being of Black-owned businesses like yours. Please reach out to the BECMA team if there's any way that we can support you. Enjoy today's event. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Robert Springer. I'm the Vendor and Supplier Diversity Specialist at the Boston Planning and Development Agency. That was an introduction from the head of the BECMA and Barry Reeves, the head of DEI at the agency. So today's presentation is entitled Unlocking Opportunities with the Boston Planning and Development Agency. And I will be pulling up a presentation to share with you. So this is the overview of our presentation. It'll be there with introductions, an overview of what the BPDA is. You'll be hearing from folks at the Boston Local Development Corporation about financing opportunities. You'll then go into procurement opportunities with the BPDA in terms of goods and services and capital construction projects. We'll be going into real estate opportunities next. And at the end of it, we'll have some resource links for everyone to be able to use, or things that we believe would be helpful for people going forward. So in terms of introductions, this morning I will be joined by several of my colleagues, including Laura Melly, the Deputy Director of Real Estate Administration, Dolores Fazio, the Senior Project Manager for Capital Construction, Morgan McDaniel, the Real Estate Development Officer, and Rebecca Hansen, Senior Advisor in the Real Estate Portfolio Management. And from the Boston Local Development Corporation, we'll be joined by Bill Nickerson and Gisela Soriano. So who is the BPDA? So what's important to note is the BPDA is a distinct entity from the city of Boston. The BPDA is the city's planning and economic development entity. It owns property. It also is responsible for the city's Office of Workforce Development, and it provides the staffing for the Boston Local Development Corporation. And for everyone who's here this morning about procurement, over the last 5 years, the BPDA has spent approximately $10 million in goods and services. Most of these dollars are spent by the BPDA's planning, real estate, and IT departments. So that's a rough overview of the BPDA. And now coming up next would be Bill Nickerson and Gisela Soriano to tell you about the programs of the Boston Local Development Corporation.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I'd like to thank you for all your hard work putting this together, and a special thank you to the folks at BECMA who did an awesome job putting this event together. Next slide, please, Robert. Boston Local Development Corporation. BLDC, we offers loans up to $250,000 for Boston businesses, both startup and existing. We are limited to the city of Boston, and I'll mention there could be a lot of folks on this call who aren't physically City of Boston businesses. We wouldn't be able to lend to you. However, you will be able to get some of these opportunities that the other BPDA staff will be talking about. We do partner with a lot of organizations that won't have the same geographic limitation that we do. So we can make referrals, and that referral and co-partnering with other both lending organizations and technical assistance organizations is a big part of what we do. So I just wanted to mention that at the beginning. There are other folks that we could bring to the table to help with the financing. The BLDC itself is actually a private 501c3 nonprofit corporation. It's governed by an independent board of trustees. On a day-to-day basis, myself and my coworker Gisela Soriano provide the management, if you will, of the program. We're both staff of the Boston Planning and Development Agency's Financial Services Department. Our mission statement is to increase opportunities for Boston residents by providing small business loans with a focus on commercial, industrial, and service companies. In the last 20 years, and I think we're going to have to update these numbers because we're starting getting pretty busy as COVID starts to open up. We've made over 20 million in small business loans and leveraged over 95 million in collaborations with Boston's banking community. And those collaborations are something that we're very proud of. And if somebody is looking for financing assistance specific to some of the opportunities here, but more broadly, just business financing, you're in a Boston business, we work with our partners in larger projects, with banks, with other NGOs and quasi-governmental agencies that also make loans. Over the years, and again, we'll probably have to update this tally, that our loans funds have created or retained over 3,500 Boston jobs. Next slide, please. There's the smiling faces of our board of trustees. These are the folks that actually make the loan decisions for the board. Gisela and I don't have lending authority. If I was still a banker, that would be my senior lending committee. An excellent group of folks, many of whom have been on the board for an awful long time. 75% are members are women and representatives minority groups. 63% of the board members are minority groups specifically. Hopefully this informs the board and how they look at the decisions that they make to help assist Boston businesses and make sure we're assisting all Boston business, that everything is proportionate and well-informed and impactful on the community as a whole that we serve. We've historically had an awful lot of success with that outreach. As mentioned in here, the majority of our existing borrowers, again, we're probably trying to update the math because we've just been in the process of doing a number of loans. It's 63% of women, minority, or immigrant-owned businesses. And we also have one loan to a worker-owned cooperative. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit on our eligibility and process. To simplify all this, we need to see what you would give a bank when you go to underwrite, when a bank underwrites a loan decision. Now, we're providing funding that the banks aren't providing. So we do what a bank would do and then see, well, where are the exceptions that we make within our mission statement that still allow us to make an informed lending decision. This is, a checklist of, as I said, everything you pretty much need to provide to any lender who's going to look at lending to a business. We do only make loans to businesses that have a physical, commercial or industrial space in the city of Boston, either under lease or that they own. There's a lot of home businesses out there, but because our mission statement is job creation, we are limited to ones that have a physical, legitimately zoned commercial or industrial space in Boston, or will have one when they close a lease. However, we do, again, have other partners who don't have that limitation and can lend to home businesses that we could make referrals to. And again, the mission statement to make jobs in the city of Boston by assisting businesses. Could you go to the next slide, please? I'd like to introduce Gisela Soriano, my coworker, and Gisela's going to take over from here talking a little bit about some of our success stories.
Thank you very much, Bill. I would like to highlight some of our most recent borrowers. Here we have Cilantro Latin Kitchen on the left, which is a Latinx and women-owned restaurant soon to open in Roxbury and conveniently located across from the MBTA Roxbury Crossing Station. Also here on the right, we have Marvelous Cuts, which is a Black-owned barbershop located in Boston's financial district. The owner, Lex DeLuz, is a multi-award-winning barber. Could I have the next slide, please? Also, here we have AXL Cycle Studio in East Boston. Here's Toby, another recent borrower, with Sana, his business and life partner, and both together with Jackson, their beautiful golden retriever. Fun fact, Jackson is AXL Cycle Studios' official security guard. This picture that you see on the bottom is featured on their business website, along with his job title. True story, check it out. And so after we informed Toby that the loan for his business was approved, he emailed us this very kind note that you see here. The loan from BLDC is going to make it possible for him to move his studio to a bigger location where he can expand his operations, hire more staff, and increase the number of customers. Could I have the next slide, please? Also, to build a little bit more on the locations, I think it's very helpful for us to have a list of all the Boston neighborhoods. I know there might be some confusion. There might be some neighborhoods that may be bordering to Cambridge or Brookline or whatnot. So here's a list of all the Boston neighborhoods, specifically to highlight that we lend in Boston. Our program is specifically to Boston only, and these are all the neighborhoods that where we have lent and will continue to lend. Could I have the next slide, please? And finally, here's our information and website. We'd love to work with you. The best way to reach us is by completing our contact form, as you see here in a screenshot. Once we receive it, we'll be in touch with you within 24 to 48 hours. Our website and Get Started form is available in English and Spanish. We'd also would like to invite you to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, as we are frequently posting important tools and resources for business owners almost on a daily basis. And our information is in the chat. Thank you, and I will return the presentation back to my colleague, Robert.
Thank you, Bill and Giselle, for that useful information. So now we're going to be going into some more details about the BPDA procurement opportunities. So if you haven't done business with a BPDA before, these are just some general suggestions. So the first thing would be signing up for our mailing list to make sure that you get notified of RFPs, RFQs, and bid opportunities when they come out. Other tips would include, visiting the BPDA's buying plan and that link there. And I will actually pull it up on the screen so you could see what it looks like. So this is the BPDA's procurement page. If you go to the buying plan link, then click view the BPDA buying plan. It figures it's taking a while to load. But you will see all of the opportunities that we would have for possible contracts. So you would see the event, the various things from like the building security systems, the type of procurement, the length of the contract, and when those releases, and when we plan on making those releases public. So I'd strongly suggest, after you signed up for the mailing list, please go back and revisit the BPDA's buying plan, because this is kept up to date. And you'll be able to see in real time what opportunities may apply for you or particular business. So, and going back to the presentation, other tips, it would be another link that was there was for the link to our procurement plan, to our procurement office. So you could go Boston Plans Works, bostonplans.org, work with us /procurement. And other suggestions would be mainly related to issues of time. So review documents in their entirety, make sure that you allocate enough time to complete forms, review them, and compile the materials in advance. Also, regarding the issue of time, it is really essential. If you've put together a package and if you've submitted it and it's even 1 minute late, it will not be considered. So that's just one thing to be acutely aware of. And also, if you going through the process of competing for something, if you aren't successful, please request a bidder's debrief to get additional feedback on how you can strengthen your application in the future. So what I'd shown you quickly on the screen was what's in the BPDA's buying plan, which is up to $23 million in goods and services over the next 24 months. The plan's updated quarterly, and the types of opportunities that we have available would be in planning, IT, and a range of professional services. As we noted at the onset, the bulk of the dollars would be the capital construction, real estate type things, planning, and then IT. This is a summary of the overall buying plan by category. And now I'll be handing things off to Laura Melly, who will be talking about some upcoming opportunities on the procurement side.
Thank you so much, Robert. I'm really excited to be here today. And I wanted to let you know about a few specific opportunities within this realm that Robert just provided an overview of. And as we continue our presentation today, you'll hear from other colleagues about opportunities in different categories, but here what I'm focusing on are goods and services. Some of these are considered under Massachusetts law to be construction, but rather than being large one-time construction projects, which you'll hear about a little later in the presentation, these are recurring services that we need to have available at all times in order to maintain our property. And I just mentioned that because when you start to look at our procurement documents, you'll see that if something is legally defined as construction, that comes along with certain requirements such as bonding and maybe prevailing wage. But you'll also note that there is a big difference again between those big one-time construction projects versus these recurring services that I'm talking about right now. So on that note, we're incredibly excited that within the next few weeks, we'll be releasing an invitation for bids across multiple categories. We're looking to have many vendors available to us on contract, on call for projects that come up as needed. There's 14 categories, which I've listed there. You can see they really span a ton of different categories. And we're looking to have as many as 3 vendors in each category. So we really encourage folks to respond to this. It's a little bit of a new contract structure for us, really trying to have a huge pool of folks that we can work with. So once we put out those procurement documents, we really look forward to getting your feedback on if there's anything that we can do to adjust the procurement or the contract to better align with the marketplace. Other things that we have coming out, again, this is all within a matter of weeks or months. We have a smaller solicitation for pest control, which has many fewer requirements, none of the bonding that I mentioned. So if you're newer to public procurement, this might be a little bit easier to get in the game. We will also, as soon as this snow season is over, fingers crossed, we're going to put out a invitation for bid for snow removal in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. We also are expanding the network of bike lanes, and so we'll have to be addressing bike lanes and possibly sidewalks in this procurement, as opposed to, we will have to be addressing them in future snow seasons. And so we're also looking for your feedback on whether it makes sense to bundle that together with plowing the streets or whether it makes more sense to do those as separate contracts. So we're always open to feedback and really want to hear from you. We'll also be releasing invitations for bids for fire alarm maintenance and for heating and cooling or HVAC maintenance. And you can go ahead to the next slide. So just to give you a sense of how all of these opportunities fit together, both the ones that I mentioned and the ones that some of my colleagues will mention a little bit later today, these are the different teams within the BPDA's real estate department. And so you can sort of see how the different contracts and the different services are supporting the work of the different teams. The BPDA has a pretty substantial real estate portfolio, which again, you'll hear a little more about in a moment. But we are legally a separate entity from the city. And so rather than relying on the city's public works or parks department, while we do collaborate with them, we need to have our own contracts to maintain these property day to day. And that's handled by our operations team with the support of the type of contracts that I just mentioned. A lot of our property also needs significant capital investment, which, so in just a moment, you'll hear from our capital construction program about those big one-time construction projects to maintain our property and really bring it to a point where we've invested in it and it can be developed and can be used in a way that aligns with the community's goals. And that is handled by our land disposition team, which you'll also hear from today. Once the land disposition team has gone through typically a public process and found a developer to partner with, our commercial leasing team then negotiates a lease with the selected developer. We typically don't sell our land. We typically do long-term leases so that we can stay involved and make sure that all of our commitments to the community are followed through. So again, that's the responsibility of the commercial leasing team. The other thing I'll mention today is that we do directly lease properties at 2 buildings, 12 Channel Street, which is no frills light industrial space in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park in the Seaport, as well as the China Trade Center, which is in Chinatown, right by downtown Boston, Class B office space. So if you are an organization that's looking for space, we love to partner with small local businesses, nonprofits, other folks who are doing exciting things. And then finally, I head up the administration team, which supports the work of all these other teams. So not to get you lost in bureaucratic silos, but just to give you a sense of how our property flows through these different phases, and therefore how our contracts are sort of this constellation that's aligned. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Dolores.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. I'm Dolores Fazio. I'm a senior project engineer with 17 years in the BPDA's Capital Construction Department. Within the BTA Real Estate Department, Capital Construction is indeed responsible for the agency's design and construction program. And I'm excited to say that the spend amount identified in the buying plan, you'll see is $16 million over the next 24 months. So what do we need $16 million for? The agency owns approximately 290 acres of mostly developed land, waterfront property, in fact, in South Boston, and that would be the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park, and in Charlestown, in the Charlestown Navy Yard. Both the sites are historic districts. The Marine Park, where our offices, real estate department's offices are located, was the South Boston Naval Annex, and its construction dates back to 1919. As is the case with all urban waterfront, maintaining maritime structures is a continuous endeavor and the key to providing investment on such properties. And in fact, for the handful of buildings the agency operates and maintains, it's often found that salt air expedites maintenance schedules. These are images of 2 completed projects at the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park in South Boston. On the left-hand side, you'll see a stairway that was replaced recently after 20 years of service due to corrosion of its metals. And on the right-hand side, take a look at the image there. It's the first phase completed of the 3-phased bulkhead rehabilitation required as the 1940s structure ages in place well beyond its planned service life. Next slide, please, Robert. At present, the buying plan includes $3.8 million in spending on 11 new design contracts. It's anticipated that 18 construction contracts will result. And when those solicitations are finalized, they will be posted on the BPDA website on the procurement portal that Robert had directed us all to, and available for download by all interested parties. The short list on the left side here has examples of design contracts currently underway or soon to be. As you can see, civil engineers and architects are currently assisting with design and construction bid documents that will develop into future construction projects. On the right-hand side, you'll see the China Trade Building that Laura just mentioned. It is a landmarked building, city landmark building, located at 2 Boylston Street, downtown, corner of Washington and Boylston, and has been undergoing improvement for about a decade, with the agency investing about $18 million so far in infrastructure, common area, and tenant improvements. Next slide, please, Robert. So looking ahead, For the next 2 years, all who are interested will have many new design and construction opportunities to look forward to. A visit to the procurement page shown on the right-hand side will list postings and state their status as either an open procurement, which would mean, please download the plan and sign up as a plan holder and be notified of any upcoming addenda, or pending, because a decision is still pending on who has won the procurement. The bid or qualifications review is underway, or it'll stay awarded, which is a final award after our board of directors authorizes the contract with the winning party. Selections are always made according to Massachusetts state procurement laws. Postings now listed include work order services for house doctors, for instance, that seeks a minimum of 3 designers in each of 13 categories. Then those are a vast array of categories for designers. So good to look into if your work even touches on design, construction in any way. Engineers are required for several projects, including 4 different roadway projects. A security camera system designer and maritime engineers will soon be solicited to improve sites at the Raymond Flynn Park and at historic Long Wharf in the downtown Central Wharf District. Flood resilience planning opportunities are coming for both the Marine Park and Long Wharf. A final thought here. A final thought about design and construction opportunities comes courtesy of our colleagues in the Bpda research department. And it's probably not surprising to any of you who are familiar with exactly who can be found working on a construction site. In Boston, construction work reflects the city's minority-majority demographic and really clearly demonstrates how important people of color are to the industry. With that, I'll hand the presentation off back to Robert.
Thank you, Dolores. And now one of the opportunities that we're highlighting is the remediation of the P3 site in Roxbury. And coming up to speak to you about that would be Rebecca Hansen and Eileen Gladstone from GEI.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Hansen, and I'm the Senior Advisor for Real Estate Portfolio Management at the Bpda. Can you switch to the next slide, Robert? Parcel P3 is located on Tremont Street in Roxbury. This parcel is over 7 acres and has been identified in the Plan Nubian planning process as a parcel with significant opportunity for affordable housing and economic development uses. A request for proposals for a long-term lease and redevelopment of parcel P3 is currently available on the Bpda website, with proposals due in March of 2022. The site had previously been designated for development. However, several factors prevented development from ever occurring, which includes the environmental conditions on site. When the development designation ultimately lapsed, the Bpda reinitiated the public process for parcel P3, including securing grant funding from Mass Development for environmental remediation. GEI was selected as the environmental consultant for the remediation efforts, and with their assistance, we are now seeking firms that will be able to manage the excavation, treatment, and disposal of contaminated soils. I will now turn it over to Eileen Gladstone from GEI to provide additional detail about the scope of the project. But as noted here on the slide, we are interested in engaging firms that have experience in site preparation, remediation, and hazardous waste. Next slide.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Rebecca. Did it skip a slide?
Yes, just the one before this.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. As Rebecca said, I'm Eileen Gladstone with GEI Consultants, and we have assisted BPDA in the design of the remediation for parcel P3. What the remediation will be entailing is excavating an area of lead contaminated soil and treating that lead contaminated soil before it's disposed off site, and also excavating a portion of a large soil mound that is on the site and trucking that soil off also for disposal. So we will be looking for a contractor who can help identify locations for off-site disposal, such as a landfill or an asphalt batch plant, and then who can help us excavate the soil, both this lead contaminated soil and also this soil mound, be able to treat and stabilize the lead contaminated soils, to prepare that for off-site disposal, assist us in getting approval from the disposal facilities for them to take the soil. You would be working and coordinating with the licensed site professional, which is myself, which is the environmental consultant. And then it really is kind of dig and haul the soil off site. We need it excavated, loaded, and transported off site. So this is, and then ultimately backfilling the excavations on site, and we would be regrading and using on-site soils for that excavation. So as I said, this is basically a soil management job. It is a contaminated site. So the staff working on the project do have to have specific training through OSHA, which is 40-hour HAZWAPA training. And then your supervisor has to have 8-hour HAZWAPA training. Those are the people overseeing the workmen who all have 40-hour training. So this project will be coming out to bid in the near future, and we're looking for a lot of interest in helping us clean up the site in P3.
And this is my contact information here with any questions about parcel P3. And then I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Morgan McDaniel, to talk about additional real estate opportunities.
Hey everyone, my name is Morgan McDaniel. I'm a real estate development officer at Bpda. My role is releasing requests for proposal for the redevelopment of Bpda owned land. So you see a bit of a snapshot of our portfolio here. We own 319 parcels of land in the city of Boston, about 13 million square feet. Around half of that is already ground leased and developed. About 2.4 million square feet is developable, and we are working through the process of working with communities to identify what they want to see there and putting out requests for proposal to look for private partners to develop that land in partnership with us. Next slide. So here's an overview of how we sell property. As a first step, we do our own internal due diligence and strategic planning to determine which of our several hundred parcels it's appropriate to be advancing at this time. Then we always conduct a community process to hear feedback from folks in the community and surrounding neighbors about what are appropriate uses for the site and what design guidelines they would want to see. After going through that process, which could be short or lengthy depending on how large the parcel is and how important it is for the community, we draft and issue a request for proposals, which is open to all respondents. Every parcel that essentially every parcel that we put out for sale or for lease is an open, fair, transparent process, so anyone can respond to it. The RFP lays out the guidelines for proposals we want to receive, what the requirements are for submission, and the criteria that we will use in evaluating the proposals that we receive. All of our RFPs are posted on the Bpda procurement portal. We've also issued public advertisements. And then when we receive responses back, we generally will go back to the community to present them and incorporate community feedback into our decision making. And anyone with questions is welcome to reach out to me. My email address is below, and I think Barry also dropped it in the chat. Next slide. So I mentioned, we will have a lot of sites across the city that are very sort of diverse. We have property in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park, which generally we put out for RFP for marine industrial and general industrial uses because of the legislative restrictions on the uses of the site out there. And then elsewhere in the city, we own a lot of property in the Charlestown Navy Yard where there are restrictions around historic preservation. And then we have several large sites around Nubian Square and Roxbury. A major one that's out for RFP right now is P3 for development, which is separate from the remediation RFP. And then we own many scattered sites for infill housing throughout Roxbury and Dorchester and elsewhere. Next slide. So for a development RFP, there are many different types of businesses and individuals who might participate. It's a bit different from a goods and services RFP because we receive proposals from a development team. And so a developer will be looking for, private equity and lenders, architects, design consultants, engineers, general contractor, subcontractor, building operators, all of these different folks to get on board as a team to submit a proposal to us. So there are lots of different opportunities to get involved in a development team. Next slide. Some upcoming opportunities in 2022, we will be reissuing an RFP for 555 through 559 Columbia Road in Upham's Corner. The use we're looking for coming out of a multi-year community process is affordable housing and a space for a new Upham's Corner branch library. There's also an upcoming RFP for 290 Tremont Street in Chinatown, also looking for affordable housing. 7 Channel Street in the Marine Park. As I mentioned, the uses there will be marine industrial, potentially lab, R&D space. And then we're moving forward on several scattered affordable housing sites in Roxbury and Dorchester. Next slide. So if you have a role that you think can be useful to a development team and you're interested in getting connected, I have a few recommendations for you. One is that generally when an RFP goes out, we'll hold a site visit, we'll hold a pre-bid conference and have opportunities for networking. And these are great opportunities to meet other people interested in the RFP and make connections to them. And then another handy tip is if you go to the procurement portal to the webpage for the specific RFP, there's a link that says plan holders, and that downloads a list of everybody who has downloaded the RFP. And that's public information. And so anyone is able to download that and get in contact with others who have expressed interest in the project. Next slide. And that's it for me. I'm happy to answer questions later on.
Thank you, Morgan. So going into the resources slide, these are some of the key links that we think would be useful for you in terms of the Boston Local Development Corporation. So again, if you're a Boston-based business, please consider reaching out to them to see about financing. In terms of learning about continued opportunities for the Bpda on the procurement side, please sign up for our mailing list to make sure that you get the notices about procurement and development opportunities when they come up. And also I'm directing you to the Bpda procurement page, which will take you to the links to the buying plan, our equitable procurement plan, and the procurement portal, where you can see the RFPs, RFQs that are currently out there. Also, another link that was worth sharing is this City of Boston link for technical assistance resources. So if you're a Boston-based business and you want to get additional assistance in terms of growing your business or responding to public solicitations, please go to this site and check it out. And again, this is our contact information again. And this slide deck will be available to everyone who's attended this meeting. And with that, open up the floor to any questions people may have regarding anything on the procurement side or financing side with the BLDC. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Oh, and also, yeah, there will be a poll in terms of this presentation that will be circulated. So please let us know. We definitely value your feedback because we'd like to make this presentation as effective as possible going forward. So if you can take the time while you're here to answer the questions that are on the screen, it'd definitely be appreciated. So let's see, I'm seeing something in the chat where it's, good morning. Do you have something called a professional association for individuals who are under a real estate brokerage to go out to bids? That one. No, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the first thing that pops up in my mind is possibly reaching out to something like the Builders of Color Coalition, but in terms of going out for bids specifically, yeah, I'm not sure about that. So if there's anyone else on the team who has a definite answer, yeah, I don't want to provide you with something that's incorrect, Judy.
Judy, I wonder if you can unmute yourself and expand a little bit on your question. Let's see. Can we give Judy permission to unmute herself?
You know, just click to ask to unmute.
Okay.
No, it's okay. It's saying, she's saying it will not allow me to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that, Judy. So we, as the BPDA, don't operate, professional associations where we, we're the ones putting out property to bid. So I am not sure about that, but I do second Robert's recommendation to get in touch with the Builders of Color Coalition, or maybe there are other real estate brokers in the chat who have further resources.
Morgan, this is Laura jumping in. Okay, I can turn my video on. I may be misinterpreting the terminology because it's not my area of expertise. Oh, it looks like maybe she can unmute. I was going to ask whether a joint venture might be relevant, but maybe Judy can unmute and clarify.
Yeah, I mean, based on the previous comment, I'm not sure that you can, so I apologize for that in terms of like the IT limitations or my own IT limitations. Another thing that would come to mind would be, there's also the Greater Boston Real Estate Board that could be a good resource to reach out to as well. I know that they're an industry organization that covers everything from the financing side, the brokerage side, operations of commercial businesses. So if you, I think they could be a resource for you to reach out to as well. Let's see. So let's see a comment. Where does the BPDA advertise its RFPs publicly? I know that notices go out. I believe it's in the Herald at least. And there's also things on the state website, I believe, through Combis. That's, that's where you get the public notices. And also, if you sign up for our mailing list, you will be notified about the opportunities when they arise.
Yep, sorry, Robert, on the real estate side, we advertise in the Herald and then also in local papers for the neighborhood of the property that is going out to bid. And then we also, send out emails through our mailing list, and try to advertise through other channels as well to get the word out.
Yeah, I'll add that for goods and services, we advertise in the Herald. We also try to advertise in local multilingual publications. We advertise in the City Record, which includes all the City of Boston departments, as well as some other state agencies. That's at boston.gov/procurement. And we advertise on Combis, which is the statewide system where a lot of cities and towns post their procurements. Again, our weekly newsletters are a great place to sign up for BPDA specific notifications. But I will say that there's a small number of procurements, maybe it's a really small dollar amount where we might not advertise them publicly. So it's great to participate in events like this to make sure that we might just do email outreach. It's also a great reason to get certified through the city's certification program for small, local, women, minority-owned, veteran-owned, and other businesses, because that's often a directory that we look out if it happens to be a really small project. But we're leaning more and more towards public advertising anytime that we can.
To the team, question. Can you share more about the equity resources for development projects with the BPDA?
Hey, oh, for that question, hi Chanda, how are you doing? So for BPDA, you know, we are doing outreach, you know, we partner very closely with the Builders of Color Coalition to do outreach and make sure that we are reaching minority and women-owned developers with these opportunities. For the Parcel P3 RFP development process, we did a lot of work reaching out to the local and minority-owned development community to get feedback on how we can improve, how we can make sure that the structure of the RFP is most beneficial to allowing capacity building for smaller developers and local developers. In every development RFP that we put out, we require that developers include a diversity and inclusion plan to address how minority and women-owned businesses will be included throughout the entire development, from pre-development through construction through post operation of the building, and that's weighted at 25% of the total evaluation of the project. And so we do conduct outreach, hold networking events, et cetera, to try and help connect various businesses to each other to participate in the development. And we also included with P3 a list of like best practices and things that people have included in their diversity inclusion plans and previous RFPs to help teams start thinking about what they want to include. But that's definitely something that's really important to us. We see the property that we own as opportunities to build capacity and create opportunities for businesses and folks that have been previously shut out of the real estate market. So thanks for bringing that up.
Question from the panel.
Could I expand on Morgan's answer, just to add something? Chanda, if your question was related to equity in the sense of non-debt investment into development projects, the BLDC Small Business Loan Fund provides subordinated debt that other lenders, because we take a second position on the assets and our money goes into a deal before the bank money, they can look at it as equity. It is debt and it has to be in the cash flow repayment stream. As far as a specific equity product, we don't have a non-debt equity investment type product to define it that way. Thank you.
Question to the group. Do you have a SDVOBE, Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Business Enterprise Minimum Involvement Requirement?
On the real estate side, no, we don't.
And I would say on the procurement side, we actually don't have, we do have some requirements for participation in the workforce for construction projects, but we actually don't have, we're not emphasizing minimum participation requirements at this time. But I will say that service disabled veteran-owned businesses or other veteran-owned businesses are really important to us. We definitely have goals there. We definitely want to include folks in our outreach. So be sure to, that's another certification you can get. So be sure that you're certified with the state or the city. Be sure to reach out to us. It's great that you're here, and be sure to give us feedback if there's anything that's making it difficult or that might make it easier to participate in our opportunities.
Let's see, I'm seeing something in the chat. Let's see. Agnes, are you expecting any sustainability related opportunities in the near future? The first thing that comes to mind for me would be the house doctor contract, because I thought one of the categories there was specifically on green/sustainable kind of development.
That's correct, Robert. Yeah, there's energy efficiency, I believe, is the category. Green building / green building.
So to Agnes, if you could download a copy of that RFQ, please look at it and see if your business would actually qualify. And above that, I think there were questions about IT. Let's see, one from Mark. Do you have any bids for technology or artificial intelligence or opportunities to do a presentation of new technologies? And then a message from Dwayne about, is there someone on the panel that specializes in IT procurement? Let's see, they aren't on this presentation, but the person who had been involved previously is a gentleman named Purnell Banks. So I can
We'll pass that information over to on a list of contacts for anybody that's on the staff and to include our IT points of contact as well.
Thank you. Let's see other questions. So there's a comment, please advertise in the banner. It's a good resource to provide outreach to minority community. I believe on the development side that is the banner used as one of the newspapers that's advertised in.
Yeah, for projects in Roxbury, we'll advertise in the Bay State banner. If the suggestion here is to advertise in the banner for every project, regardless of neighborhood, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
And then there's a question, what about equity resources partners for projects not involved with P3?
So yeah, I guess, Kyle, are you talking about equity in the financial sense or equity in like the racial equity sense? I guess I should ask that clarification.
Yeah, thank you for the correct. Yeah, definitely clarification question. Yeah, equity in the financial sense. We're looking at the other projects in Roxbury and whatnot, and wanted to see if there were other resources. It sounds like Bill, you had mentioned that there were a couple of opportunities for maybe debt equity. I think we might want to continue that conversation with you to get a better understanding of and grasp on those resources.
If you would like to email me at bill.nickerson@boston.gov, I'd be glad to have that conversation, because there, as I said, we don't have a specific non-debt equity instrument. However, working with our partners, there can be some opportunities that we can try to link you up, and I'd be glad to walk through the conversation with you.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Kyle, I also put some information there for the Building Coalitions of Color, as well as they have some great information on equity and financial resources as well.
Great, thank you.
Let's see, there's a comment, the BPDA needs to do a better job introducing regular/major developers who do business in Boston with communities such as this attending event.
Yeah, Dana, thank you for that comment. I think we're doing more of that, having networking events and opportunities for connections. I think we didn't really consider this event to be, that to be the purpose of this event, but definitely happy to take the suggestion and talk further about that.
And let's see, there's a
question to the group. Are you connected to the Massachusetts Minority Contracting Association?
in the question, I want a little more clarification about that. Is it just aware of them or engaging them on a regular basis? And that's a question from Kelly. So if you could provide some additional clarification. Oh, engaging. So I'm taking that, I mean, in terms of outreach and more on the development side.
We are participating with them in some of the survey events. I will share with you that I've spoken with them personally and stuff like that. And so we are always looking to work and expand our outreach to work with others as well.
And let's see, did we hit all the questions? Going through the list. So there's
There was one early on from Sean Osborne. 926. He's asking, how, I guess, how the subscribing to opportunities at BPDA works. Will they automatically receive a link to a certain RFQ?
So
Dolores, he asked that if he signs up for notifications, will he receive certain information specifically around the certain projects and stuff? And I responded to him as well.
Okay. Yeah, the way that would work is he's subscribing, and he will see a link, yes, in the newsletter that he'll receive as a result of subscribing, but then he'll have to access that.
I'm seeing the comment in the chat from Sean. That's been answered. Thanks. And let's see. So if there aren't any other questions from folks, I guess I'd give it a few more moments if people have questions.
There's a question in the chat. When it comes to lending, does your team lend to service startup businesses? If yes, what are the requirements? I think this is directed towards the BLDC.
No, Bill and Gisela.
Hi, Sika.
Okay, I was having trouble unmuting. If you'd like to answer this, Gisela, please.
Sure, absolutely, we do. And I'm be happy to put in our website again, which actually lists all of the requirements, including the documentation that we'll need for the application. So thank you very much for your question.
We have already answered the question on the service disabled veteran business.
So we'll give it another moment, but if there aren't any other questions,
Robert, could you highlight the poll again, please, and just have everybody please follow up on the poll?
Yep, so everyone who's still on, if you could take a few moments to complete this poll, this would be helpful in terms of helping us make sure that we're conveying information that's actually of use to you and your business. So I believe there are 8 questions. If you haven't answered, please take a moment to do that. So right now, yeah, there's been a 62% participation. So yeah, I guess I'd be speaking to the remaining of 38% of folks. If you wouldn't mind filling out the poll, it'd be appreciated.
Robert, can I address Judy's question at 946? Because I think what she's asking is, can her professional real estate firm go after any of our projects? And I'd have to say that if the firm manages property, then yes, there are opportunities, because the China Trade Building, the management there turns over every so many years. So just depends what the skill set is of the firm, but they're definitely a real estate firm, management firm, brokerage firm should monitor the website for potential opportunities. Just that. Thank you.
Hi, Dolores. Yeah, that was pretty much my question. I am under a brokerage. I do commercial real estate, and I just recently learned of an opportunity like this from a colleague out in Tampa, and she shared with me it's something called the professional association, where you're able to go up for certain bids that may be available. So yeah, that was my question.
Okay, great.
All right. And any additional questions? All right. So thank you everyone for attending today's presentation. You have the contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. And thank you to everyone, my colleagues and with the presentation. And also thank you to BECMA for hosting this excellent event. I hope you all have a great day.